achieved.
So it would appear that YouTube has elected to make some heavy cuts into especially the MMA predicting world on the basis, and this is what I've been led to believe at least, that we are using or posting videos that include links to various gambling related websites, like various betting sites or DraftKings or anything else like that. And I've seen a number now, including myself, YouTube predictors who have been under this scrutiny and have had their channels targeted. I think wrongfully. I can understand them writing saying you need to remove these things, but just removing us and then putting us a strike. I got a warning, and it wasn't very clear as to what the warning was for. I got strike one, again, not very clear what it's for. I eventually did some sleuthing around and figured out what it was. And I've painstakingly gone through all of my videos and removed the links. I haven't heard anything since. We'll have to wait and see. Warning number one meant the inability to upload videos for 1 week, so I'm not 100% sure if I'll be able to upload this video as soon as I'm done recording. We'll have to wait and see. But I believe the ban was going to be lifted on Thursday. Again, we will have to see if that's the way it plays out. Either way, very upset with YouTube. I feel for all those people that have had to move on or have been scrambling to deal with this situation, myself included. Hopefully we can figure it out. Hopefully they're not complete assholes and can realize that all you have to do is tell these people that these rules they put in place appear to be retroactive. If you just let us know what we did wrong, we'd probably, I would, and I'm guessing most other people would go back and correct the problem as opposed to having their channel taken down, all the work they put into it. Either way, let's persevere. Welcome back to Kamikaze Overdrive MMA Predictions. Always, I am your host, Scott Johnson, and on this episode of the show, we are breaking the upcoming UFC 238 pay-per-view, which will take place on June 8th. I'll be giving you my 5 main card predictions on this episode of the show, which I believe is episode number 351. I'll be giving you all of my preliminary picks at kamikazeoverdrive.net. I'm also coming off a show where I had an okay night, not a great, no, it wasn't overly awesome. The Gustafsson loss killed it. I would have had run the table with my gold picks again had Alexander Gustafsson not lost. And on that note, with Gustafsson potentially retiring, all the best to him if this is the decision he opts to go with. Absolutely. Sometimes people are emotional. Maybe he had it set ahead of time, but sometimes people make emotional decisions after the conclusion of an upsetting fight, which I felt he was doing his best. He was holding his own in there and doing a decent job, potentially ahead in the scorecards, most likely ahead in the scorecards. Hats off to Anthony Smith for picking up a nice win like that. But the bet packs will be available for $15. You can get a discounted version if you subscribe to the end of June, which is a couple events left. You can follow me on Twitter at KO_predictions, and we've got 5 fights, and again, I'm way behind this week due to a number of circumstances, so let's get to that first main card prediction. Our opening fight of the night transpires in the UFC's heavyweight division is the 11th ranked Thai Bam Bam Tuivasa, 10 wins and 1 loss, fighting out of Australia, takes on the Bulgarian 13th ranked Blagoy Ivanov with a current record of 17 wins, 2 losses, and 1 no contest. Now, Tuivasa is coming off his first career loss, a TKO defeat at the hands of Junior Dos Santos. He was 3-0 inside the octagon prior to the defeat. For Ivanov, he lost his debut decision to Junior, but rebounded with a decision win, albeit controversial, fight I got wrong, losing it to Ben Rothwell. Now, Tuivasa, physically 3 inches taller, with a 2-inch reach advantage. He is 10 to 15 pounds heavier than Ivanov, and he's 7 years younger. Now, the Bulgarian was badly outclassed by Junior over 5 rounds, and that was his debut, so he gave him a bit of a pass there. But he struggled, I felt, against Rothwell, who was coming back after a long layoff, and I don't feel he looked that good in that fight despite getting the nod. Rothwell, who might have been a little more active, might have, probably gets that decision there. Now, for Tuivasa, he won a controversial fight versus Andrei Arlovski, which, could have gone either way, but he had some early success in the Junior fight before getting finished, and neither guy's coming into this matchup coming off their best performances. Now, I would be amiss if I said both guys had great Diaz-like cardio. Both guys will slow down in fights. Ivanov, though, has the experience. Again, I keep adding extra syllable in there. Ivanov has the experience advantage in longer fights, having been the WSOF champion and going some deep, in Bellator as well, going deeper in those fights. Certainly has more experience there. Now, Tai showed he can compete in a longer, more drawn-out battle in the Arlovski matchup, but his aggression and offensive output certainly do slow down. So for Ivanov, he was badly outworked in his debut. He struggled at times with Rothwell as well, and he simply wasn't landing enough. He was routinely allowing Big Ben to push forward and be the aggressor, similar with JDS. And, it didn't cost him against Rothwell. It certainly cost him against Junior. And it's not a good look for the judges. And when you look at Tai Tuivasa, he guy's got power. He's had success versus next-level competition. He hasn't had the success against next-level competition. Regardless, he's still willing to move forward and trade. He's still willing to move forward and throw and take your best you have to offer and land his. And that is a major, major concern for the Bulgarian, for Blagoy, who tends to allow us once again to dictate the pace. And if Tuivasa can constantly push forward, he could score a knockout and or he could score a lot of points with the judges and take home a decision. Ivanov does have a background in judo and sambo, and he could opt to go that direction. Blend that grappling takedown, aspect of his offense into this fight. And Tuivasa has had limited experience on the mat. And we've seen enough to suggest he could struggle against a guy who orients his attack around that facet of the game. Unfortunately, Ivanov hasn't completed a single takedown in the UFC. He's fought through two fights, 8 rounds in total, and not a single completion. That's concerning. As I said, Ivanov struggled with Rothwell, was running off a layoff, and he didn't look great in that fight. Look for Tuivasa, conversely, to push forward constantly. He's going to be hungry. Coming off his first career defeat, he's going to come out here looking to build on his skills. He's the type of guy who comes off as the type who's going to get back in the gym. He's going to work hard to rebound. He's going to push forward. He's going to have to watch the counter-striking attempts of Ivanov, but I think he can deal with that. Unless he lands something significant, Tuivasa is going to score a lot more points to the judges, potentially get a finish here, and just be more active, more aggressive, and grind this one out. And my prediction is Tai Tuivasa to defeat Blagoy Ivanov by TKO. Pay-per-view fight number 2 is a very, very crucial fight in the UFC's men's bantamweight division, as the 7th-ranked El Terror Jimmie Rivera, 22-3-0, battles the 9th-ranked Petr No Mercy Jan with a current record of 12 wins and 1 defeat. Now, Jan is fast rising. He's certainly climbed the ranks. He's coming off the biggest win of his career over John Dodson, and he's looking to add another big name to really build his title contention opportunity. And knowing they're going to crown a new divisional champion later in the night, it certainly will behoove one of these individuals to put together a good performance and line themselves up for a possible title shot. There's another fight in the prelims which has equal title contender implications. Now, when you look, again, Jan's 4-0 in the UFC, and he's won 7 straight, so he's got a lot of momentum going. For Rivera, he lost a definitive decision versus Aljamain Sterling, and while he got knocked out 2 fights earlier by the potential new champion Marlon Moraes, the Sterling fight was just so long and dragged out in a poor performance. That was, I think, more of a crushing defeat. He did have a win over John Dodson mixed in the middle and had won 20 fights previously to this current 1-2 skid. Physically, Jan 3 inches taller. Rivera will have a reach advantage by 1 inch, and Jan is the younger fighter by 4 years. Now, for Jimmie, he's on the cusp of being left behind, which is crazy to consider. Considering all the momentum he had and the wins he picked up, he got rolling. But Jan is the type of guy who quickly caught up to him, and a win here obviously passes him by as far as the contending ranks are concerned. Jan is coming off as the biggest win of his career, beating John Dodson. He landed 80 significant strikes against a guy known for his speed and elusiveness, and limited John Dodson to just 30. And he worked in a couple of takedowns against that rock-solid takedown defense of the Magician. Now, for Rivera, he's coming off by far as his worst performance. He landed just 24 significant strikes. He looked hesitant. He struggled with everything that Sterling threw his way and gave up 101 significant strikes coming back his way against a guy in Sterling who's not known for super high volume, at least standing. Now, the work rate here favors Petr Yan. He's a good close-range boxer with power. He has landed some of his bigger offensive outputs, 176 in the aforementioned 80 significant strikes against John Dodson. For Rivera, he's known for his cardio and known for his work rate, but the power really isn't there. He hasn't shown himself to be very powerful, just 4 wins by knockout in 25 career fights. And when you look at Pedro Munhoz way back when Rivera fought him, Jimmie landed 96 strikes. That was his biggest output in the UFC, but nothing close since, in that range of 45 to 70. So you can see what I'm driving at here is Petr Yan has showcased that his floor tends to be around Rivera's general ceiling as far as output is concerned, which is certainly concerning. I heard Xiaonan refer to it before. If you have 2 fighters or 2 basketball teams, and one's going to take 90 shots and one's going to take 60, you're going to go with the team that's going to take 90 because there's a chance that they're going to score more points. That's what we can assume here, at least with the striking totals. Now, the durability factor is also a major concern here for Rivera. If you combine that with his struggles to, with the activity and the length of Sterling, if he doesn't have the power to get him out of there and the volume isn't there, and then you add in the fact that his durability is a question mark, he's only been knocked out once, and that was by Marlon Moraes, who's knocked out a lot of guys, but he's been hurt and stunned in several fights. It's just there's a lot of things you're going to start questioning. What favors Rivera? Where is his avenue to victory here? Jan has punching power here, and he should have success in close range against Jimmie. Rivera could turn to his wrestling, but has never been a theme to his success inside the octagon. And conversely, Jan's counter wrestling has proven decent, not perfect. Dodson took him down a couple of times. And he is vulnerable if he gets too aggressive and overextends himself a little bit looking to box in the pocket. But again, Rivera will be a major deviation from what we've seen from him. Maybe that loss to Sterling's enough to create such a change, but Jan has gone offensive with his own wrestling. I don't think he's going to do that against Rivera here. I think he recognizes where he needs to focus his attack, which is his offensive striking. Rivera's going to struggle to find enough offense overall here. And if he opens up and gets too aggressive, that's going to expose him to possibly getting knocked out. If he steps into the pocket, Jan's going to land more frequent strikes than Rivera. If Rivera steps into the pocket, Jan's going to be looking for that pocket all fight. And he's going to land more impactful strikes. And my prediction is Petr Yan to defeat Jimmie Rivera by decision. The third fight of the night is a doozy and has the potential to be a fantastic matchup. It will go down in the UFC's lightweight division. His former interim champion, El Cucuy, Tony Ferguson, ranked second in the division, 25 wins and 3 losses. It takes on the fourth-ranked Donald Cowboy Cerrone, always a fan favorite, 35 wins, 11 losses, and 1 no contest. Former title challenger, former in WEC and the UFC. And that's what this fight is headed towards. This fight could have been a 5-rounder, should have been a 5-rounder. I don't know if we'll need 5 rounds, though, to determine it. It is a shame that it's not, and there's really a legit chance the winner of this fight's the winner of the recently announced Nurmagomedov-Poirier title unification bout. Now, Ferg has won 11 in a row, including that interim title against Kevin Lee. He was stripped of it, but he hasn't lost since 2012. When you look at his more recent victories, Edson Barbosa, Rafael dos Anjos, Kevin Lee, Anthony Pettis, he stopped all those guys but RDA. That is impressive. Now, Donald Cerrone is 17-4 in his lightweight career when fighting in the octagon. His losses to the aforementioned Dos Anjos twice, Anthony Pettis, and Nate Diaz, all top-level guys. He has won 3 in a row overall, 4 of his last 5, including dominating Al Quinta over 5 rounds just a month ago, not that long ago. Physically, Cerrone 2 inches taller, but Ferguson will have a surprising 3-inch reach advantage. Tony is a year younger than Cerrone, but it's worth noting he has 21 less professional fights, a lot less road work, and a lot less mileage on Ferguson's body. Now, that being said, Ferguson's had a lot of injury issues, personal issues as well. He's been relatively distracted and fairly inactive. Fought just once in 2018 and once in 2017. Again, distractions, consistency issues, physical issues all seem to be preventing him from really flourishing. And that's why we haven't got that Ferguson-Nurmagomedov fight that a lot of people have been clamoring for. Now, Cerrone is doing that thing again. He's doing that thing again where he starts to fight a lot. He starts to find some success, and he just he's jumping back into the cage. And sometimes that catches up to him. This is his 6th fight in just over 15 months. This is his 3rd fight of 2019. That's a lot. He has fought for the title. But he's also, and he's lost those fights. And just generally, he's dropped some big fights, losing to Pettis, losing the first fight to RDA that gave him, would have propelled him to a title shot, losing against Masvidal where he was rolling at welterweight and appeared on the cusp of title contention. He has never won a title fight in 4 tries in the UFC or WEC, and a lot of people would attribute that to a mental block. Maybe he's got past that. Maybe fighting for his son, Danger Cerrone, I believe it is, maybe that type of encouragement and motivation has got him past that. This will be a great measuring stick to see if that's the case. Now, Cerrone, as we know, is a calculated striker. He's willing to brawl, but he does his best when he dictates the flow of a fight. For Tony Ferguson, he's chaotic. He likes to be unorthodox, throw everything at his opponent, including the kitchen sink. Now, Ferg, as I said, will throw almost anything at you. He keeps pushing forward and engaging. It's borderline reckless. And he has been hurt before as a result. We go back to the Lando Venata matchup. We've seen him hurt on multiple occasions. I think Kevin Lee hurt him as well. He's been clipped. He's been dropped. He's been in trouble. And Donald Cerrone's the type of guy that if you get in trouble against him, he is going to finish you with strikes or submission on the mat. Again, didn't do it against Ali Quinta, but for the most part, you know what I'm talking about. And again, Cerrone can be as dangerous with his hands, dangerous with submissions, just stuns an opponent and pounces. Now, Cowboy is vulnerable in a couple different areas. He tends to be a bit of a slow starter. He tends to let his opponent engage, and often he has issues catching up, especially in 3-round fights. And Tony Ferguson is a guy who fucking comes flying out of the gate right at your face. That's going to be an issue. Cerrone's chin and body are also areas of concern. He can be hurt, he can be finished, as he's got lots of damage and mileage on his body as well. Ferguson can be hurt, Do not kid yourself. He can't be hurt. But I feel his ability to recover is much better than Cowboy's. In fact, it seems like when Cerrone gets hurt, that's it. Masvidal, stunned him, knocked him out. Pettis cracked into the body, stopped him. So did RDA. These guys seem to be able to put him down. When Ferguson gets hurt, he seems to be able to rally around a bit and get back into the fight. It's something you don't want to toy with. Something that certainly could be a problem later on. But you know what I'm suggesting. Overall, Tony averages more strikes per minute, and he will push a greater pace. Cowboy's also known for slowing down, especially if he's pushed very early, which Tony will. Cowboy is dangerous throughout, but as he tires, that becomes less and less of a factor. Cerrone is a fighter capable of ending this matchup at any point in time, but I think Ferguson will do more and do it more often. Look for Ferguson to get off to a very strong start, keep pouring it on, keep Cowboy backing up. I think this is one of those fights where everybody's going, it should be 5 rounds. I don't think it takes 5 rounds. My prediction is Tony Ferguson to defeat Donald Cerrone by TKO. In the co-main event of the evening, we are in the women's flyweight division as the newly crowned champion, Valentina Bullet Shevchenko, currently ranked 14th at featherweight, but the champion, of course, of this division, 16 wins and 3 losses, fighting out of Kurdistan, takes on the number 1 ranked contender in the division, Jessica Evil Eye, with a current record of 14 wins, 6 losses, and 1 no contest. Now, Eye has been in the UFC since 2013. She debuted at UFC 166 against Sarah Koff in a fight that was overturned via no contest. In her first 7 fights in the promotion, she went 1 win, 5 losses, and 1 no contest. She has since gone 3-0 since returning to flyweight with 2 split decision victories, so it's kind of a feel-good situation for her, and it's just a case of, hey, look, give her the opportunity in a young division, and we'll go from there. For Shevchenko, she lost to Amanda Nunes via split decision for the bantamweight title. She had a close fight with her in their first engagement over 3 rounds. Probably wins that one if it goes more than 3. Then she moved, as I said, to the 125-pounders to the flyweight division, decimated Priscilla Cachoeira. She won the title against Ioana and Jacek at UFC 231, 5-2, but both of her losses in the UFC have come against the featherweight and bantamweight champion in Amanda Nunes. Physically, Eye 1 inch taller, though the same reach. Shevchenko's the younger fighter by 2 years. Both girls formerly fought at bantamweight, but were undersized for the division and have since made an appropriate move to get into a more appropriate division. Now, Eye's volume has slowly improved in recent fights. She's coming off her UFC best 81 significant strikes versus Caitlin Chookagian, and that certainly was one of the reasons she won a very close fight. Now, for Shevchenko, she's been working at a better volume rate for a much longer period of time. You look back at her fights, 89 versus Ioana and Jacek, 72 against Nunes, 87 against Holly Holm. Those are impressive numbers. Shev is the more diversified striker overall, utilizing a lot of kicks, utilizing a clinch attack, versus Jessica Eye, who's primarily a boxer. And that's where she's going to key her offense on. But Shev just simply has more tools. One of the few... Shevchenko is one of the few fighters who have gone toe-to-toe with Holly Holm in a striking-based fight and won that matchup. And while she was hurt in the opening round, she definitely got her work in and won the fight over 5 rounds. Now, Eye has had issues pulling the trigger at times in fights. She usually has very close fights with narrow differentials between striking totals. And you look back at some of her fights, she lost to Beshko simply because she couldn't pull the trigger. She was fighting at home, I believe, in that matchup. She was getting backed up way too much against a fighter that she should have been able to light up. Eye's in a very difficult position here. She needs to stay in boxing range. She needs to avoid getting stuck on the outside where she can be kicked but not land her strikes. At the same time, she can't get too close beyond boxing range where Shevchenko can clinch up with her. So she has a very definitive and very limited space for which she can work. Within punching range, not too close to clinch, not too far away where she can be kicked and not punch. Now, Shevchenko, the reason that clinch is very dangerous is Shevchenko is very strong in that position. She can land strikes there, but more importantly, she can get her takedowns from that position. And Eye has struggled with fighters that come out looking for takedown-based offensive attacks. And Shevchenko, she landed 5 against Jan Jacek. As I said, she dominated Cachoeira on the mat, and she submitted Juliana Pena. She picked up 3 takedowns against Holly Holm. Overall, she's much better on the ground than most people anticipate her being. And then when you look at Jessica Eye's track record against Alexis Davis, Miesha Tate, the aforementioned Pena, Sarah McMahon, they all established their takedown games, and that led them to pick up victories against Eye. And now, further to that point, Eye actually has showcased improved wrestling offensively, landing takedowns in a couple of her flyweight bouts that allowed her to score points. So it's a double swing here. It's a double negative, if you will. that doesn't make, because that usually equates to a positive, which is not the case here. I no longer, I don't think in this fight, will be able to score takedowns and as a result score points from those takedowns. And instead, she'll be hemorrhaging points as a result of giving up takedowns and top control time. So that's a huge swing. The other issue here is the 5-round experience. Shevchenko has beat Jan Jacek. She beat Holly Holm, and she went toe-to-toe with Amanda Nunes over 5 rounds. She knows how to fight 5-round fights. Ai's never gone 5. She's 10-5 overall in decisions, 3-2 in splits. She's had pacing issues that could be helped by, creating gaps between them over 5 rounds, but also it might not be. A fighter that tends to take time off and not engage like she should, it's more time in the cage isn't necessarily a good thing. Shev obviously in this fight, Valentina obviously has more, as far as I'm concerned, has more tools, more experience, and is more suited to win a 5-round fight. Ai has just 3 wins by knockout in 21 career bouts. That's not going to be, she's not a power threat here. Shevchenko is simply too much unless Ai can catch lightning in a bottle, and my prediction is Valentina Shevchenko to defeat Jessica Ai by decision. We move now to the main event of the evening for a matchup set to crown the new UFC Bantamweight champion. Now that TJ Dillashaw has been removed from play, and this bout will feature the reigning flyweight division champion, division on the verge of collapse, the messenger Henry Cejudo, taking on the number 1 ranked fighter in the division, Magic Marlon Moraes, the former WSOF champion. Now, looking here, Cejudo, as I said, is the flyweight champion. He's coming off a flyweight victory over Dillashaw, 4 wins in a row, including a split decision over Demetrius Johnson, which I did not feel he won. Moraes, conversely, has won 4 in a row over Rafael Sunsao, Jimmie Rivera, Aljamain Sterling, and John Dodson. Damn impressive. His only loss in his last 18 fights was a split decision loss to the aforementioned Sunsao. He is 17-1 in that stretch, including capturing and defending the WSOF championship on multiple occasions. Now, you look at this fight and you realize that if TJ Dillashaw had defeated Cejudo to become the flyweight champion, the division ceases to exist right at that point. If Cejudo wins tonight, or wins this fight, and captures the bantamweight division, the flyweight division will cease to exist. They don't even have enough fighters to fill out the 15 rankings, top 15 rankings. They have 12 fighters. They've cut everyone. I fucking hate it. I think it's disgusting. Either way, not the point here. Now, physically, Moraes 2 inches taller, with a 3-inch reach advantage, and he's the younger fighter by a year. Now, Cejudo, as I mentioned, he's going up. He has had issues in the past making 125 pounds, and he actually made his UFC debut at bantamweight against Dustin Kimura, very lanky, but not overly, not an elite by any stretch of the imagination bantamweight, no longer in the promotion. Now, again, I'm not a huge fan of this matchup, and I kind of called it before they announced that this fight was going to happen. I think there are more deserving bantamweights that could have given this opportunity. How about a mini tournament like they did to kick off the flyweight division? How about we take, and again, we have some fighters on this card. We take Moraes and we put him up against a guy like Petr Yan, kind of a 1 versus 4 scenario. And then we take Aljamain Sterling and we put him in there against Pedro Munhoz, a fight that's actually happening on the prelims. So that's great. And then we say Rafael Sunsao, Jimmie Rivera, you guys are the alternate bout. And we let those guys square off, and then another night later on we crown the new champion. Now, that's not happening. We're getting this. We got to analyze this. So here's the big matchup. It's Cejudo's wrestling against the multifaceted offensive attack of Marlon Moraes. Now, that being said, I think Cejudo's wrestling removes any submission skills, submission threat of Moraes, short of a knockdown like he did against the Sunsao, and then jumps on the position and finishes it. But so this really comes down to the wrestling of Cejudo against the striking of Moraes. Now, Cejudo's done a much better job of late blending his wrestling into his arsenal far more effectively. Prior to the TJ knockout, he landed 8 takedowns over his last 3 wins. 3 against DJ, which is incredibly impressive. 4 over the 3 fights. And again, you go back to that. Prior to that, he had 3 fights. He went 1-2 with a split decision victory, and he landed just 4 takedowns over those 3 fights. So you see how important they are to making him a definitive victor. He has solid top control. Anybody who holds DJ down for like he did was huge. And again, in that fight, you really got the sense that once he took Johnson down, that was a big factor in the fights. And it really didn't expose, but it certainly put DJ in a position he's very rarely been in, if ever, maybe going back to the Dominic Cruz fight, but very rarely been in ever in his career. Now, for Moraes, he's only given up 2 takedowns, including none in his last 3 fights, but all have been relatively short. Dodson... he's not going to give 2 takedowns a fight. Sorry, Dodson went 2 for 4, and a Sunset went 1 for 2 on takedown attempts and decisions. But it can be argued, and very easily argued, that he's never faced a wrestler like Cejudo, Olympic caliber, Olympic medalist. Now, the thing here, though, that you got to keep into account is the size of Marlon Moraes. It is an issue in this thing. The striking exchanges can favor the smaller, quicker, more skilled man. But when you get into the wrestling exchanges, the larger man can have a greater impact both offensively and defensively. And that could force Cejudo to fight this fight primarily on the feet, which is a concern. Cejudo's striking skills have improved. He could be a little faster Moraes, but Moraes is very quick as well, and he's a more diversified striker. Moraes has 10 wins by knockout, including guys like Jimmie, Rivera, Aljamain, Sterling, go back to WSOF, knocking out Josh Hill. He dropped Rafael Sunsao before submitting him. He has lots of good weapons. He's a good counter striker, and that's all going to play well against a Cejudo who likes to come forward in exchange. As I said, Henry was knocked out by Demetrius Johnson, and Moraes is a bigger hitter. And that's certainly very worth mentioning here. And again, I don't 100% buy into Cejudo's punching power when taking out TJ Dillashaw, who was probably diminished by the cut. And again, it worked out well for Cejudo, but I don't want to buy into it too much. Moraes is the more dynamic striker. He needs to avoid sitting back too much. He's used more forward pressure at times, and he needs to do that here. Counter, mixed together as a counter and as initiating of exchanges. Cejudo, again, I think he might be buying into his hype too much, talking about how he's one of the greatest fighters of all time and soon to be pound for pound. And again, he's had a good run. I'm not 100% there yet. I think it cost him here a little arrogance, a little bit over the top. I just don't think he's quite the fighter everyone thinks he is. If he gets his wrestling going over 5 rounds, there's no cardio issues, I think he absolutely can win this matchup. But I think Marlon Moraes is my pick, and my prediction is Marlon Moraes to defeat Henry Cejudo by TKO and become the new UFC bantamweight champion of the world. So those are my 5 main card predictions for UFC 238. Again, I apologize for the delay in getting them posted. All of my preliminary predictions, as per usual, are available at kamikazeoverdrive.net. Hopefully YouTube allows me to get this video uploaded. Obviously, if you're listening to it, it was. If you're not, I guess I'm talking to myself. Either way, the predictions are available at my website. Betting packs available at my website. I believe we have another week off for the next event after this. So enjoy the fights. Should be a good card top to bottom. Looks like a solid event. Actually, I want to talk about this briefly. This is one of those cards that indicates the issues with the UFC. For us hardcore fans who follow all these fighters and are very excited, this is a fun card. A lot of good matchups, a lot of fun matchups. But for the average casual fight fan, they don't care about this card. Marlon Moraes is a beast, and Cejudo's making waves. No one cares about that. Absolutely no one on the outside of the big MMA community cares about Shevchenko. Tony Ferguson versus Donald Cerrone will move the needle a little bit, but there's some very good fights in this card that are just simply going to be overlooked, and that's the unfortunate aspect about it. And I think the UFC is going the wrong direction by continuing to cut back on the exposure as far as isolating some of their things to ESPN. I think it's just stupid. But hey, they got a better business model than me. That's why they're there and I'm here. Either way, thanks for tuning in, guys, and I will talk to you in the not-too-distant future. Take care.